But I would want us to switch gears from politics and talk about something that I think a lot of these politicians should have included in their manifestos. Okay, so Scotland is in the lead. They've become the first country in the world, which shouldn't have happened because women have been there from the beginning of time, but it's okay. So they are the first country in the world to make period products free for all, and there is now a legal duty on local authorities to provide free items such as tampons and sanitary pads to anyone who needs them. I like the way they said anyone who needs them, but yes, products will be distributed through councils and education providers as the Period Products Act comes into force. When will this happen for us? When will the leaders, our political leaders, see that we cannot help what happens every single month, which sounds like a taboo if we speak about it in public? We see free condoms being distributed, and yet we have to pay for sanitary pads, and they are expensive. It is ridiculous to think about the impact it has on education, because so many girls miss school. So many girls are forced into marriage because now they're ready to become a woman, and they're told that it's going to be easier for you to get pregnant than it is for you to go through your period. So I'm going to start with Mariam of course. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, as the only other menstruator on this panel, I have a few thoughts. It's not taboo, honestly. See, this is the thing. What have I said there that warrants this reaction? Except facts. But yeah, so happy for the Scottish people. It's so odd that probably a country that is not as badly off as the rest of us is the one to implement free period products for all, and that's a wonderful thing. I'll go back a little bit on what Kwach had said earlier about not being a fan of affirmative action, and I'll just tie it in with what's going on here. So when you say Nakuru is all female government, a female senator, female this, there's been a lot of transitions of women from women rep to other elective positions. So it might not have made sense as a position, but even me as someone who has questioned it time and time again, I see how it builds women to be more ready for competitive politics in other fields, not just as women reps. So, and representation matters. It's a matter of political goodwill. When Amina, you say we have condoms in dispensers, like in public bathrooms, at universities, at government offices and everything, that was goodwill because of the AIDS pandemic. And everyone was just solely trying to make sure that our infection rates go down. So what we need is people to give goodwill as well in Parliament now, and that's a good thing because we have more elected leaders now than ever that are female, and hopefully they will be the ones championing for the cause, because like you said, there's so many girls missing school. It's an issue of health, dignity, education, everything. So hopefully the women that have gotten into Parliament, that's on your agenda, please.
Okay.
We need period products for free.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mariam.
I was ready.
All right. I know you were ready. I could see that. So, Kwach and Macho, no need to mansplain. Can we take a break? Let's take a break. We're going to be back. You're watching TT. Thank you, Mariam. Well said.
And that's on period.
And that's on period.
Women in the past often had lighter periods, and far fewer of them than we do today. Because pre-industrial societies had higher rates of illness and malnutrition, women had their first period later and menopause earlier. And without effective forms of birth control, women spent a much larger share of their reproductive years pregnant and breastfeeding. So women of the past could expect on average 150 periods in their lifetime, while modern women in developed nations have about 450 periods, 3 times as many. Women throughout history have grabbed whatever was convenient and absorbent when dealing with their menstruation. The Ebers Papyrus, the oldest existing medical document dating back to the 15th century BCE, records that women in ancient Egypt fashioned tampons out of soft rolls of papyrus. Egyptians also used menstrual blood as a beauty product. They believed it could lift sagging breasts and skin. Ancient Greek physician Hippocrates described women making tampons out of lint or lamb's wool wrapped around lightweight absorbent wood. Sea sponge is also believed to have been used. Paper was first invented in China in 105 AD and was introduced in Japan in the 6th century. Women in ancient Japan rolled up paper to make tampons and used bandages to hold them in place. With the invention of and craze for rubber in the 1850s, sanitary aprons or strips of rubber worn between the legs were used. While they saved clothes from staining, they trapped in bacteria, worsened odor, and led to rashes and infections. In the late 1800s, the Hoosier sanitary belt was invented. This waistband allowed washable pads to be clipped in and run through the legs. Dr. James McGregor Allen proclaimed that, in intellectual labor, man does now and always will surpass women for the obvious reason that nature does not periodically interrupt his thought and application. Health reformer and cornflake enthusiast John Harvey Kellogg instructed that women should rest completely during menstruation. Harvard medical professor Edward H. Clark wrote that the rigors of a college education would be too taxing on the female mind and body. He hypothesized that when women were menstruating, gravity would pull too much blood from their brains, and therefore they should remain home lying in bed rather than standing in lecture halls. He warned upper-class families away from sending their daughters to university, lest they become infertile. It is interesting to note that no one was suggesting that working-class women should spend their periods lounging in bed. Rather than pushing misogynistic pseudoscience, Dr. Mary Putnam Jacoby conducted a scientific study on the matter. She collected extensive physiological data, including muscle strength tests, on women throughout their menstrual cycles. She published her findings in a groundbreaking 1876 research paper, in which she concluded that there is nothing in the nature of menstruation to imply the necessity or even desirability of rest. Adding, women were healthy when they were educated, mentally engaged, and physically active. Not only did Jacoby scientifically disprove Clark's claims, she was awarded the Boylston Medical Prize from Clark's University, Harvard. Unfortunately, this hard science did not put an end to the taboos surrounding menstruation. During World War I, nurses discovered that cellucotton, a type of cheap bandage made out of wood pulp, worked miraculously well for absorbing their periods. The private sector bought up the warehouses full of bandages left over after the war and repackaged them. Kotex disposable pads were introduced in 1920, but they didn't catch on right away. Kotex finally caught on when they started appearing for sale by order in the 1926 Montgomery Ward catalog. In the 1920s and 30s, fashion changed dramatically from massive skirts that could easily conceal a bulky menstrual pad and belt to slim-fitting short skirts that could not. The first menstrual cup, called the Tasset, was invented by actress Leona Chalmers. Around the same time, the tampon hit the market. But both products failed to gain popularity, as it was widely believed that their use would tarnish a woman's sexual purity. As female virginity was still highly prized, these products were marketed exclusively to married women. Young women were stuck with bulky belts and had to plan looser-fitting clothes and avoid swimming during that time of the month, lest anyone know that they were on the rag. In 1957, the pill was approved to regulate menstrual cycles and help women deal with severe menstrual disorders, not as a contraceptive. In 1969, Stay Free introduced the first adhesive pad called the Maxi Pad, and it was an instant hit. Women were thrilled to finally throw out those awful 100-year-old Hoosier belts and enjoy more freedom of dress and movement. Once new women's hygiene products became a profitable business, advertisers changed their tone, and they began trying to convince women that using tampons had nothing to do with so-called virginity. The word period was uttered for the first time on American TV by Courtney Cox in this 1985 Tampax commercial.
The tampon most American women use today, made of soft white cotton inserted with the help of an applicator and removed by the pull of a string, did not come around until the 20th century. The first cotton tampon with an applicator was patented by Dr. Earl Haas of Denver, Colorado in 1933. Although tampons had existed for thousands of years, they had descended into relative obscurity in the United States, and most women used sanitary pads that were held in place by a belt. Haas wanted to create something better than the uncomfortable rags his wife and his patients used. After visiting a friend in California who told him she used a sponge internally to absorb her menstrual flow, he returned to Denver feeling inspired. He went straight to work and developed a highly absorbent compressed cotton tampon with a disposable applicator. As brilliant as Haas's invention was, he failed to create much interest around his new product and ended up selling the patent to a businesswoman named Gertrude Tendrick for $32,000. Tendrick was a German immigrant who went on to start the Tampax company and served as its first president. But she couldn't turn a profit with Tampax and sold the company in 1936.
So I try to do a small good thing for my wife, makes me to stand here. The fame, the money I got out of it. So what I did, I gone back to my early marriage days, no? What you did on the early marriage days, you tried to impress your wife. I did the same. On that occasion, I saw my wife something carrying like this. I'm so, what is that? I asked. My wife replied, none of your business. Then being a husband, I ran away behind her. I saw a nasty rag cloth. I don't even use that cloth to clean my two-wheeler. Then understood she is adopting that unhygienic method to manage her period days. Then immediately asked her why you're adopting that unhygienic method. She replied, I also know about that, but myself and your sisters, if they start using that, we have to cut our family milk budget. Then I shocked, what is the connection between using sanitary pad and milk budget? It is called affordability. I tried to impress my new wife by offering a packet of sanitary pad. I went to a local shop, I tried to buy a sanitary pad packet. That fellow looks left and right and spread a newspaper, roll it into the newspaper, give it a banned item, something like that. I don't know why. I not asked for a condom. Then I took that pad. Then I want to see that. What is inside it? Then I thought it is a white substance made of cotton. Oh my God, that guy is just using a penny value of raw material inside. They are selling for pounds, dollars. Why not make a low-cost sanitary pad my new wife? That's what all is started. But after making a sanitary pad, where can I check? It is not an industrial item, check in the lab. I need a woman volunteer where I can get in there. Even in Bangalore, you won't get. In India. So only problem, the only available victim is my wife. Then I made a sanitary pad and hand over Santi, my wife's name is Santi. Said one day, she said openly, I'm not going to support this research. Then another victims, they got into my sisters. But even sisters' wife, they are not ready to support in the research. Then I try to use that medical college girls, they are also refused. Finally, I decide, use sanitary pad myself. Now I'm having a title like the first man set foot on the moon, Armstrong. Then Tenzing Hillary in Everest, like that Muruganan is the first man who wore a sanitary pad across the globe. I wore a sanitary pad, I filled animal blood in a football bladder, I tied up here, there is a tube connection to my panties, while I'm walking, while I'm cycling, mad a press, there is doses of blood will go there. But here the problem is, one company is making napkin out of cotton, it is working well. But I'm also trying to make sanitary pad with good cotton, it's not working. That makes me 2.5 years to continuous research. You need first funds, not only financial crisis, because of the sanitary pad research, I come through all sort of problems, including divorce notice for my wife. Why it is means, I use medical college girls, she suspect, I am using as a trump card to run behind medical college girls. Finally, I came to know it is a special cellulose derived from a pine wood, but even after that, you need a multi-million-dollar plant like this to process that material. Again, I stuck up. Then I spent another 4 years to create my own machine tools, a simple machine tool like this. In this machine, any rural woman can apply the same raw material what they are processing in the multinational plant. Anyone can make world-class napkin at your dining hall. That is my invention. So after that, what I did, usually if anyone got a patent or invention, immediately you want to convert into this. I never did this. I drop it just like this. Because you do this, if anyone run after money, their life will not any beauty. It is boredom. Lot of people making lot of money, billions of dollars accumulating. Why they are coming for finally for philanthropy? Why the need of accumulating money than doing philanthropy? More of them decided to start philanthropy from the day one. That's why I'm giving this mission only in rural India for rural women, because in India you get surprised, only 2% of women are using sanitary pad. Rest they are using rag cloth, leaf, ask, dust, everything except sanitary pads. It's the same in 21st century. That's why I'm going to give this mission only for poor women across India. So far, 630 installation happened in 23 states, in 6 other countries.
McCormick inherited a large fortune from her late husband, which she used to fund oral contraception research to a tune of $2 million. She funded Gregory Pincus's research into developing a birth control pill. She also funded clinical trials of contraceptive pills that were conducted by Dr. John Rock, an eminent Catholic gynecologist. Pincus and Rock largely benefited from the works of chemist Dr. Carl Gerasi, who synthesized progestin called norethisterone using yam roots in Mexico City in the 1940s. The pill was invented in chemical form, but the doctor was not equipped for proper testing and manufacturing. American chemist Frank Colton synthesized northinetrol, the progestin used in Enovid, the first oral contraceptive, at G.D. Searle and Company in Skokie, Illinois in 1952. Enovid was approved by the American Food and Drug Administration in 1957 to treat menstrual disorders, but its capacity to be used as birth control was not identified until 1959, when the pharmaceutical company Searle applied to market the drug as a contraception. Before we go any further, a couple of interestingly confusing things. This is what comes up if you do a simple Google search of who invented the Hoosier sanitary belt. Mary Beatrice Davidson Kenner is widely credited for the invention of the belt. According to this article by Vice, which also claims that she is a forgotten inventor, Kenner came from a family of inventors, with her grandfather inventing a tricolor light signal to guide trains, her sister patenting their family board game and selling it commercially, and her father patenting the clothes presser that would help with packing for traveling. She graduated high school in 1931 and earned a place at Howard University, but dropped out due to financial issues. She later patented the belt in 1957. The story is that she invented the belt in high school or even younger in the 1920s, but because of racial discrimination, she could not patent it until the 50s.
Sometimes secular education will miss key Black historical and history-making Black individuals in the month of Black history. We know our Dr. Martin Luther King, Harriet Tubman, George Washington Carver, and maybe if you're fortunate enough, loosely, Malcolm X. However, Black history is so much more than integration, underground railroads, and peanut butter. You're talking about a wealth of vibrant culture with so many contributions to society, science, and the socio-economic wealth of the globe. Mary Beatrice Davidson Kenner was an African-American inventor most noted for her development of the sanitary belt. Yes, guys, before the pad, there was the belt. She was born in Monroe, North Carolina, and credited her father, Sidney Nathaniel Davidson, with giving her a thirst for discovering things. Her sister, Mildred Davidson Austin Smith, was also an inventor. Kenner invented both a sanitary belt in 1956. Wow, that's crazy to think that not too long ago, we didn't have simple sanitary things, and a bathroom tissue holder in 1982, among other hygienic inventions. She invented the sanitary belt and the sanitary belt with moisture-proof napkin pocket. Well, we kind of need one with the other, so.
The interesting part is that the belt was already in use in the late 1800s. Decades before it is claimed that Kenner invented it in the 1920s. Some sources date the invention of the belt back to 1879, more than 40 years before Kenner allegedly invented it. This article by Africa Check refutes claims that Kenner developed sanitary pads, which she is also widely credited for, by arguing that she invented the sanitary belt and not the pad. The article suggests that Kenner, born in the U.S. state of North Carolina in 1912, did not invent the sanitary pad. but she did patent an updated version of the sanitary belt in 1954. She wrote in her application that this invention relates to improvements in sanitary belts. It's a beautiful story, you know. A black woman managed to rise against all odds to develop an invention that solved a problem that was or is faced by half the human race and is not getting any credit. But the invention was being used for years before the inventor was born, and there is the slightest chance that she did not invent it. Thought that was important information to put out there. Also, not that many people know about Courtney Cox and this commercial that revolutionized the public conversation around periods. So apart from being a great actress by featuring in one of the greatest sitcoms of all time, watched it 3 times back to back from season 1 to 10 after discovering it, and 1,000,000 times over afterward, she's also an agent of positive social change. That's quite the catalog right there, and more power to her. Back to the topic. As we have already established, political correctness always finds a way to bite back. This kind of thinking is what got us to no uterus, no voice while men are out here solving women's menstrual problems. I can guarantee you that even the most misandrist of women, those women who believe that all men should be killed, that the world would be a better place if men were not in it, those women massively benefit from men's inventions, with the focus in this case being period products. Literally use period products all your life, even worse, have a pad or a tampon on while yelling all men are trash. Whichever way you want to look at it, men have been instrumental in developing women's period products throughout human history. Men developed paper, and Asian women used that paper to fashion period products. When feminists want to bash men for wars, they do not give men credit for the First World War, specifically, the injuries suffered by men in those wars, giving rise to what women use today as sanitary towels. Very sure that very few people know Murugananta Marnachalam and his contribution to low-cost sanitary towels being used by women all over the world today. What if he followed his wife's widespread belief, just like the women calling themselves the only menstruators, that women's periods are none of a man's business? What if all the men highlighted in the video and many more actually believed that women's periods are none of their business, as women so widely suggest? So this man is trying to invent something to impress his wife and solve a recurrent problem that she files for divorce because he was looking for study subjects to test his new invention. Women though. A very wise man once told me that men are like excavators. Do all the dirty work removing the boulders and tree stumps and completing all the necessary work in road construction. Once their job is done, the road has been tarmacked and is ready to use, the excavator should not use the same road it was instrumental in building because it will ruin it. But when another road is required, then the excavator is called upon, and the cycle continues. And this is the story of men today.